Hey cousins, I'm Shemaya. It's like papaya, except it's not, and this is Plot Twist Please, where I like to use pop culture in order to help make our brains a little cozier. Hit that like button, subscribe. Let's get into it. You're on a top secret mission, the kind that involves lasers, rope, and full body suits. Stay with me, all right, okay? You've been commissioned by insert country here as part of a new kind of operation. The mission? Blend in. Something you're very good at. Everything you do, the way you dress, the cadence of your speech, your instinctive reactions, is filtered. Weird. As you listen to this scenario, how does your body feel? Do you all of a sudden feel anxious? Did you have to remind yourself to relax your shoulders? Did you relax them just now? I know, it's like I'm seeing through your screen. Imagine feeling like this, like a secret agent all of the time. Whether you're an autistic girly like me, or a neurodivergent girly, or a neurodivergent adjacent cousin, meaning you don't have an official diagnosis, but in your heart of hearts, you suspect the wrinkles in your brain might resemble mine, you feel? Welcome. Today, we're talking about masking in relationships. Now, hold on, pause. I know that I talk about masking a lot on this platform, but I want to just clarify something, okay? When I say masking, I'm not talking about the term we used to talk about coronavirus, all right? I'm an advocate for covering up the face hole with a mask, all right? Look at me. Plaster that sucker on there, all right? Your community and those who reside outside of it, well, thank you. When I use the term masking, my liege, I'm referring to something that has a different meaning within the neurodivergent community. In this community, the term masking refers to a set of behaviors, personality traits essentially, that neurodivergent people will exhibit either consciously or subconsciously in order to comply with the social script of any given environment. You smell what I'm cooking? It's like a persona you put on, like a sweater. Now, this may or may not include the following: using vocal inflections more often than you would otherwise in order to appear more feminine and or to mimic childlike innocence, so you don't seem threatening. This includes apologizing more often than you should and or when it seems inappropriate. What am I trying to say? Even when it seems inappropriate. Yep, that's the word. Sitting or standing with the kind of posture that is not your actual posture. It's a facade. This can include instinctively editing your visceral reactions to either overperforming them or hiding them completely. Ooh, this one hit home, actually. Listen, child. Let me tell you something about unmasked Shemaya. The unmasked Shemaya, you see everything she's feeling on her face. Yes, ma'am. It's there, out in the open. Masked Shemaya, however, she is a vault. Oh, yeah, lock and key, baby. Nothing getting past this. You can't penetrate this. Now, at times, I look back at my formative years, when I didn't know I was part of the Neurodivergent Cousins Club. When I still had kind of like a snaggletooth in there, my baby teeth just hanging by a thread. And it seems like I was a completely different person. Truly, it's baffling. Honestly though, this is a side note because I haven't gotten into the main course of this episode quite yet. Just hold on, chill out, you gotta wait. But I do think that part of the reason that I've unmasked over the years, so much, is just good old timely social exhaustion. If you don't know, I went to a highly competitive university. I've always been academically rigorous my entire life. Since I could read the letter A, I've wanted only an A on anything I've ever gotten, on any piece of homework, on any assignment ever. But I am also an actor. I'm an actor. And guess what's a big part of acting? Being social. So yeah, the energy I would use to mask is now being geared toward things like auditioning and responding to your lovely comments. Some of them lovely, some of them not lovely. But anyway, I do use energy to do that. I use energy to be a social media person, to be a content creator. It's part of the job. Over time, my body was just like, thanks. I'm tired of masking. And so the energy it would have used to mask for other things. Comment below if you know what I'm talking about. Somebody knows what I'm talking about. More forms of masking. Here we go. Code switching. If you know, you know. Smiling or laughing when talking about things that don't seem to warrant it. and barely showing any emotion at all. It could show up as either of those things or both at different moments, like in different environments or with different kinds of people or in different scenarios, in different positions of power in a hierarchy. There's something called selective mutism that I'm not going to go into too deeply because it's a whole thing. But the short definition is selective mutism is an anxiety disorder where a person is unable to speak in certain social situations. Thank you, NHS, for that definition. You're my girl. I would really get into it, but that deep dive is for another episode. So you're just going to have to stay tuned. You're just going to have to subscribe and keep your ears perked up for the next episode. I want you to chew your food before you swallow it, don't I? Smaller bites, Dash. If you know what movie that's from, you are just as media obsessed as me. But anywho, back on track, right? Because we're steering off course a little bit. Selective mutism is something that can happen because of feeling the need to mask in different environments. Now, there are other forms of masking that I'm sure I've missed. And if you think I missed something, list it in the comments. It's all love here. We're a unit. We all want the same things. Just let me know in the comments. Let's not brawl over it. But as a secret agent and professional masking expert myself, I've recognized a pattern when it comes to this useful yet exhausting habit. It can greatly impact relationships. Now it's time to really get our hands dirty because I'm going to talk about the cycle of the neurodivergent secret agent. I'll start first with behavior correction. Then I'll go into the flop era, which is rejection and disappointment. And lastly, I will cover the villain era. Y'all, I was trying to be relevant with these titles. Bear with me, okay? Bear with me. Chapter 1, behavior correction. We'll start at the very beginning, before you became aware of the concept of being perceived by other humans. Have you ever thought about the first time you got reprimanded for something or realized that a certain behavior wasn't socially acceptable? Do ya? This is the phase where you start getting extremely familiar with what it means to be someone who abides by social rules, as well as what it means to be someone who does not. Social rules. What are they, though? They're practices that are agreed upon officially within a certain culture that people within that culture assume everybody knows. Now, this is just me coming up with this definition based on my observations. Feel free to add your own observations in the comments. Now, you know what this reminds me of? Something that I can't stand the concept of. Manners. Manners. Because who are manners benefiting? Huh? Whose life is made better by manners except the people who don't like to communicate the manners. And then everyone else just has to suffer. Oh, it's so much. I'm so sorry. I'm just having my Norma Desmond moment. But in all seriousness, manners are mixed up in there somewhere. It just makes it a little blurry. These can be as explicit as saying please and thank you, or as implicit as making eye contact when you speak to someone, or not interrupting when they speak. Vocabulary, ding ding. Explicit is obvious. Implicit is not obvious. Sorry to make you feel like you're in school, but also you're welcome because you should be learning every day because we are constantly students. You better sharpen your number 2 pencils. Now, if you're pumping the mental brakes after hearing this saying, that seems really arbitrary. How many implicit rules can there be? Especially if it seems like they're just things we're supposed to know that no one is guaranteed to have learned. If you're thinking that, we are on the same wavelength, my liege. These are literally the questions that keep me up at night. Yep, they do. One eye open, like this. And that is not a figure of speech. I have actually stayed up, staring at my ceiling, going over every social interaction I had that day, browsing through the social scripts in my head because I have several. She's prepared. She has several versions, trying to make sure I don't miss any cues or that I didn't talk over somebody or that I responded to that text message with the right tone or that I stared that person in the eyeball long enough to not seem rude. I did. Can I tell you a secret? Can I be honest? A lot of autistic people will quiz ourselves at the end of a social interaction to make sure that we have, crossed our explicit T's, dotted our implicit I's. And we get into the habit of doing this because of this behavior correction phase. And we eventually come to the conclusion that it's not our behavior that needs to be masked, but it's us. It's who we are who needs to be hidden. And if we don't grow up in an environment that's supportive, where we are consistently affirmed, in spite of our need to mask to survive in some degree, to make it through life, this becomes a lens through which we view all of our interactions. Not cute, very unfun. That behavior becomes especially dangerous once we enter the second phase, the flop era. Yes, let's hear it for the flop era. Now, don't come at me, Gen Z. Leave me alone about this chapter title. I just wanted to make sure the phrase flop era was, fitting somewhere because I wanted to use it in this episode. I'm just trying to be great. Don't stop me. This is a phrase that most people, if not every single person who walks the face of the earth, enters around their 20s. But for autistic and neurodivergent people, it manifests itself a little bit differently. There comes a time in everyone's life where they experience a breakup. Whether it's a platonic breakup or a romantic breakup, it hurts just the same. Some would say that friend breakups hurt more than romantic ones, but that's neither here nor there. There are a few reasons I've discovered that breakups hurt so bad. First of all, as someone who has only ever officially experienced a friend breakup, that's the realm of knowledge I'm coming from. And it is valid, I tell you. It is valid. Reason number 1, it's a pattern disruption. Reason number 2, we tend to view the end of relationships as personal failures. And, drumroll, reason number 3, loneliness is a big fear of ours, of most people. Yeah. And if this is bad for non-autistic folks, imagine how it might be for my fellow autistic busy brains. Imagine what that might do to our squishy innards. So sorry. Wow, what a image there. What a description. What I mean to say is that these difficult facets of breakups become even more intense when the person experiencing them is autistic. Let's slice this into little nuggets, shall we? We'll start with reason number 1. It's a pattern disruption. If you've been doing your homework, good job, A+. But you'll probably also know that pattern recognition and pattern reliance are huge parts of autism. I love it. I love it so much. It's finger licking good. Until I have to do anything that requires me to deviate from my routine. Then, tragic. I didn't even see the solar eclipse because doing so would have required me to deviate from my schedule and step outside of my plan. Not my plan. Not that. Secret. Now, being used to someone, to a rhythm, to phone call rituals, and inside jokes, I get how things like that can make it difficult to embrace change. Reason number 2. We tend to view, you and me, we tend to view severed relationship ties as evidence that we failed. In other words, we find something we're insecure about, and because the brain is a tricky little thing, it tells us that that thing we are most insecure about is the reason it didn't work. Most of the time, we autistic people think, I just didn't mask hard enough. I didn't hide my autistic instincts well enough. I was a bad secret agent. Okay, this next part is gonna take some brain power, so just juice it up and buckle up. Most autistic people know that we're weird. I know. We spend most of our lives being painfully aware of how we are perceived by other people who are not like us. And a lot of us use relationships, romantic and platonic, to prove to ourselves that we aren't unlovable amoebas who no one could possibly understand. I've talked about this before, but many autistic people move through society feeling like, aliens, as in Spock, as in E.T., like specimens from another planet. And, there's plenty of media circulating today to help us out with that. It's not very helpful. But it's also extreme anxiety that makes you feel like any pattern disruption is a sign that you've done something wrong. Like you'll keep doing the wrong thing forever, even. And it'll be this giant tire rolling down a hill, destroying everything in its path. Which brings me to reason number 3. Good old fear of loneliness. Yeah. I don't know about my neurodivergent cousins out there, but I think a lot of us tend to fear that if we make a mistake once, then we'll keep doing it. Honest hour. I used to believe that having friends and having a partner was something you got as a reward for being the best kind of person. For being normal enough, for speaking at the right moments in a conversation, for laughing out loud at just the right volume, for wearing the right outfits, for not being disruptive, for good behavior, for masking perfectly. But the fact of the matter is The people that are for you won't make friendship or partnership feel like an audition. And boy, oh boy, do I remember auditioning for friends. Yeah, never again. Never again. I remember it too vividly. I think every autistic person has a friendship or two that they felt they were auditioning for the whole time. It's fine. It's like a rite of passage. We've all been there. As you can imagine, this kind of pain of relationship ending, confirming your fears that you are in fact an alien who will be unlovable forever, can turn sour real fast. That brings us to chapter 3, the villain era. Now I get it. People can be awful. I mean, people start wars and put sugar in grits and wear Crocs in the wintertime. Heinous individuals we are. Heinous. And if you're already a sensitive little autistic who gets hurt by people, whether it was malicious or not, you're going to be like, okay, confirmed. We'll revert to shutting out humans forever, as I previously have. But here's how that solves your fear of loneliness. It doesn't. I know. Gagged. Simply befuddled. It is far too easy to run into a situation where someone can hurt you either because they don't have the tools to meet your specific needs or because they lack the foresight and self-knowledge to communicate that they don't have those tools. As much as it might give us, solace, as much as it might make us feel good in the moment to be like, oh, so everyone is just awful to me and everybody hates me and I will never find someone who cares about me genuinely. That's just not the case. I promise you that's not the case. I mean, you'd be surprised at the people who care about who we do hurt. And from my experience, we end up hurting the people who we care about the most because we have the most access to them, because we know them the best and they know us the best. They see our weaknesses, they know us on the deepest level, and that is a big risk, a risk that can lead to hurt. In other words, sometimes people don't hate you. Sometimes they just don't know how to love you. And sometimes that's no fault in their own. Sometimes it is, but sometimes it's not, right? Sometimes it ain't. We get into trouble, though, when we take the hurt we experience from other people's clumsiness, emotional clumsiness, and decide that it happened because we didn't hide our true selves well enough, because we didn't perform who we thought we were supposed to be well enough. When we decide that we will never be able to blend in well enough to deserve a relationship, it puts us in a corner. It can make us feel hopeless, unlovable, or even vengeful. Now look at me and my pupil when I say this. You deserve to have people in your life who you can unmask around. I wish every human brain came with an instruction manual. I really do, but those just ain't the cards we were dealt, okay? We just gotta bump our heads a little to figure it out. Most of the time, people are not plotting your demise and are just neutral toward you. People end up getting hurt because we all have parts of our lives and parts of ourselves that are harder to sift through. People are messy. People contain multitudes, and that can be a hard pill to swallow when you're stuck in such rigid thinking. Personally, I have come to the conclusion that I don't have any enemies. If you think we're fighting, you're in the ring by yourself. You're fighting with a ghost. No one is against me but the devil. Everyone is on my team, and we are in it together, whether you feel that way or not. In my head, we are on the same team. Yeah, sorry, you just don't get a say. I'm sorry. But to get there mentally, I had to make a choice, a very conscious choice, a choice that was hard to get to because I was so hurt. And I was listening to a psychology podcast, and I'll get back to that choice in a hot second, but I was listening to a podcast where a neuroscientist said that the sign of a healthy brain, essentially, is flexibility. And that resonated with me. So I ask, how flexible is your brain? When bad things happen, do you respond with rigidity? Do you think, everyone is awful, including me, and this is the way it will always be? Okay, Dr. Seuss. Okay, Madame Seuss. Do you think, this is why I don't deserve relationships, and this is why I will never deserve relationships? Or do you think, the pain I'm feeling is a reflection of my desire for connection? I must honor that desire by continuing to show up for myself, as myself, come what may. I can't answer that question for you, but maybe by this time next week, when you tune in, you'll have an answer. That's all I have for you today. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Leave a comment below if something resonated with you in this. I'm so glad I get to serve this community. I love you. Be blessed. Stay weird. Bye. Ooh, girl, not the hair.